Joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Noelle Acheson, Head of Market Insights at Genesis Global Trading and a sister company to CoinDesk. Hello there, Noelle. Always a pleasure to have you on. So I want to ask you, what's behind this slight bounce in Bitcoin's price after a near 30% decline from its all-time high around $69,000 in November, though it is taking a bit of a retreat right now?
Hi, Christine. Always great to be with you. I do have to say that these are my opinions, not those of my employers, and nothing I say is investment advice as usual. What's behind the Bitcoin price move? Some people are saying that, look, see, this is Bitcoin behaving like an inflation hedge again now that we had that print that you mentioned earlier. It's not necessarily that. We haven't seen any evidence that Bitcoin behaves as an inflation hedge in the markets. In fact, we've probably seen quite the opposite. What we're seeing now, is the reawakening of interest in risk assets. As you mentioned, the inflation print was very bad, but not worse than expected. That's the important thing. And the market does already seem to have digested that there will be 3 to 4 interest rate hikes this year. If it turns out that the economy is heating too much, well, obviously that would be very bad news because that might indicate there would be even more. That's probably the fear that we've been seeing in crypto asset markets as well as other risk asset markets over the past few weeks. And Bitcoin's increase over the past couple of days is the unwinding of that fear. It is so it's not going to be quite as aggressive a tightening as we had feared. This is the risk asset behavior that we've been seeing for some time now.
All right. Another interesting chart that you brought to us shows that traders are once again increasing their leverage on Bitcoin trades. This is a perpetual interest in blue and BTC price in gray. So what is the story this chart is telling us?
This is interesting because it looks at perpetuals open interest, not overall open interest, but perpetuals. And perpetual futures, as you know, Christine, tend to have higher leverage, significantly higher leverage than traditional futures exchanges offer, such as the CME. So looking just at perpetuals gives an idea of the degree of leverage that has been creeping back into the market. And as we can see here, it is considerable. Does that mean the market is at risk? Well, always when leverage creeps back, there is a risk of a sharp move up or down. We don't know from this chart whether the leverage is on the optimistic side or the pessimistic side, but it does look like there could be some sharp moves coming up as liquidations do their thing.
All right. Is there still room for Bitcoin to fall, or has it bottomed out? Where do you see support and resistance?
Again, this is my opinion, but there's a lot of on-chain data, Christine, that is showing we're at a support. The kind of on-chain data that I'm thinking of shows that the market capitalization relative to the real economic activity on Bitcoin, in other words, the realized value, that is flashing buy signals. We also are seeing signs of long-term holders renewing their either holding activity or their buying activity. Long-term holdings, the amount held in long-term addresses, on a 30-day change basis has turned positive recently. We also know that the supply of Bitcoin that hasn't moved in over a year continues to increase. The supply that is held in what is defined as liquid addresses continues to increase. So there are very strong on-chain signals that are saying there's a lot of accumulation going on by longer-term investors that don't see Bitcoin as a risk asset, and that the market is not valuing yet this strong accumulating activity.
Do you see a difference between institutional and retail activity?
Retail is coming in. We're seeing some signs of that, but not in a frothy way yet. There's nothing that's flashing froth just yet. And typically in any cycle, when the price starts to get ready to resume its upward trend, then you do see retail investors starting to buy again, but nothing that indicates we're near a top like we have seen in previous cycles.
And finally, Noelle, 2022 predictions for Bitcoin.
Now, I can't give a particular price other than I think I can say up. I think I'm allowed to say that simply because, Christine, of the fundamental accumulation that we've been talking about. It will always be a risk asset for a very important cohort of investors, but that's not the only story that's going on. And not only is that a strong bullish force, and we also are seeing miners that are just not selling, not only is that a strong bullish force, but it also reminds us that Bitcoin is many things to many people, and that is one of the main things that gives it its resilience.